Welcome to our program, Astronomy for Everyone. In previous episodes, we've talked about tools of astronomy, from telescopes and binoculars to using your unaided eye. But today we're going to talk about yet another tool for astronomy, the Internet and online astronomy. With me here in the studio to talk about these resources is John Schroer, a member of our club. John, welcome to the program again.
Well, thank you, Don. It's nice to be back.
There are a number of areas where people can do astronomy, different topics and whatnot, and I want to touch on a few of those during this segment of the show. First area I'd like to talk about is knowledge, where people can acquire the information that they need to know to carry on this hobby. And the first one that comes to my mind is astrosociety.org, the Astronomical Society of the Pacific.
Yeah, it's an organization dedicated to astronomy education and getting people interested in the hobby. They've existed for more than 100 years, and you can visit them at the website astrosociety.org. They sorry I messed up there. They publish the magazine Mercury, which is now available in digital as well as a printed form. They also have many sources on their website.
That's a good one. Another one that comes to mind is one that's dedicated to taking care and curing light pollution is darksky.org.
Yeah, that's the International Dark Sky Association, and their mission is to help lighting engineers and politicians use lighting and make decisions for lighting that will not damage the nighttime sky. Also to make it safer for driving, because bad lighting can also be hazardous to pedestrians and drivers of motor vehicles. And they elicit both professional and amateur astronomers, as well as maintain contact with local, state, and federal government levels, as well as working with lighting engineers, designing light fixtures that light the ground but don't ruin the nighttime sky.
All right, well, the next area that people can get a lot of good information is from our own government. And this one is through the Jet Propulsion Laboratory at nasa.gov.
Yeah, JPL is the branch of NASA that's dedicated to robotic exploration of the solar system. And every single mission they've ever had, as well as current missions, are online at jpl.nasa.gov. And you can download videos and images and actual sounds. For example, the Cassini mission has actually recorded the sound of the northern lights happening in the upper atmosphere of the planet Saturn. So there's a lot of resources there. There's also the main nasa.gov website, which is run by NASA headquarters in Washington. That website links to every single NASA space flight center in the country and covers all aspects of astronomy and space exploration.
Well, after they get knowledge, they might want to find out where it is that they can find some equipment, and there are a number of sites. Two that come to mind are Celestron.com and Meade.com.
Yeah, those are the two major manufacturers of telescope. Celestron is celebrating its 50th anniversary, and they introduced a game-changing telescope, the Schmidt-Cassegrain. It's a basic telescope that combines both lenses and mirrors. They also sell Dobsonian telescopes, basically reflector telescopes, as well as refractor telescopes, ones that use lenses. Meade's the other manufacturer that a lot of people go to for telescopes. And there's also Orion telescopes. They basically started as an online supplier of scopes, and now they're one of the biggest in the country.
And I understand they also have a very good educational resource at that site as well.
Yeah, even their catalogs that they mail out have full descriptions on each type of telescope and the different kinds of binoculars they sell, how they function, and even all the auxiliary equipment, eyepieces, filters, anything an eager astronomy observer would like to have.
Now, there is one other website that I'm familiar with, and this was the site that the Ford Club used in conjunction with the Lincoln Park Observatory to get the equipment that they put in the Hector J. Robinson Observatory, and that's OPT.
Yeah, OPT is basically a dealer of telescopes, and they worked with the club and the Lincoln Park school system to renovate their observatory down there.
It's really great equipment, and we'll feature that facility on one of our future programs as well. Want to move on next to the area of software, and I know there's a program that both of us really enjoy a lot, and that's Stellarium.
Yeah, Stellarium is a public domain free program. It's available to work either on Windows-based computers, the Mac computers from Apple, as well as people who deal with the open operating system called Linux. This is a planetarium program. You can set it up for your neighborhood, and it will give you a photorealistic view of what is up in the sky, any time of day and night, any year in the past or the future. It's a wonderful program, and it's not the only one that's available for free. There are several other programs that are available. There's K-Stars, which is available for Linux-based computers. That's, again, a wonderful program. And there are also a lot of good software packages that you can buy. Software Bisque out of Colorado sells the sky from a beginner all the way to advanced and professional levels. There is the Voyager 3 software from Carina Software. That's for Macintosh-based computers. Those are two of the outstanding ones that you have to hand over some cash to get.
We're going to move on next to websites for astronomy clubs and star parties. And one of the premier sites that covers really all of the astronomy clubs here in Michigan, at least that I'm aware of, is www.boonhill.net.
Yeah, boonhill.net basically has links to every major club in Michigan. The Ford Club, the Warren Astronomical Society, the Amateur Astronomers of Jackson, the Capital City Astronomers, you name it, the Sunset Astronomers that host the Great Lakes Star Party in the fall. That site has links to all those clubs and hosts many of their websites.
Along with that is, of course, astromichigan.org.
Yeah, now that website's organized by Mike Narlock. He's the head of astronomy at Cranbrook Institute of Science. And that promotes not only planetarium theaters that have shows, that also lists observatories and when they're available, star parties for the public and for amateur astronomers, as well as upcoming special events, such as the Astronomy at the Beach, which happens in the fall at Kensington Metro Park.
Big event. Two of the biggest star parties in our country, the ones that are most well attended, are the star parties down in the Florida Keys and, of course, Texas.
Yeah, the Winter Star Party is a chance to enjoy the Florida Keys in February. So you can enjoy nice weather, beautiful setting, and you get to see stars you just can't see from the southeastern part of Michigan. And that's restricted to, I think, about 800 people a year. You have to submit to a lottery in order to get a chance to go. The same thing is true for Texas Star Party. That's held in the West Texas Desert. That's usually held in May and June. And that is in the shadow of Mount Locke, where the McDonald Observatory is located. And that's a wonderful experience. You get a flavor of the Old West in the west side of Texas. You get some great skies when it's not hailing at you, which happens on occasion. It did for me 2 years ago. There's also the Riverside Telescope Makers Conference out in California. That's actually much larger than Texas and Winter Star Party, but it's more toward telescopes than actually observing the night sky. It's held near Big Bear, California, and that brings thousands of people.
Sounds like all three of them are very interesting events to go to. Lastly, we want to talk about imaging. If you don't have the wherewithal to buy the telescope and the cameras and everything that goes with it, there are online services that you can use. You can rent a telescope online to take your own images, and the one I'm thinking of course, is lightbuckets.com.
Yeah, it's a great website where you can actually buy time and remotely image galaxies, star clusters, anything you want to take out of the sky. This is just one out of many websites where you can actually rent a scope and remotely image and then download it over the internet so you can mess with your computer and do what you want with it. There are also two other websites I'd like to mention because they help beginners and even help up to advanced learners discover what's going on in the current sky, announcements about newly discovered comets, sky conditions, what constellations or planets are up in the sky. The first one's astronomy.com, and that's sponsored by Astronomy Magazine, and skytonight.com is from the publishers of Sky and Telescope.
We'll be able to run all of these website addresses for you on a crawl here at the end of this segment. Right after that, we'll be back with our new segment called Term of the Month. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Thanks, Don. I thought I'd take just a couple minutes to talk about stellar magnitudes. Stellar magnitudes are a brightness scale that astronomers use to show bright stars and dim stars when making a map. They also talk about them. The scale was developed about 2,000 years ago. The bright star Vega was assigned the value 1. Stars that were noticeably or just noticeably dimmer than Vega were assigned the magnitude 2. Magnitude 3 stars are stars that are just dimmer than magnitude 2 stars, and so on to magnitude 6 stars, which are the dimmest that you can see naked eye. The important thing is that large positive numbers are dimmer. Large is dimmer. With the advent of telescopes, finer gradations than integers could be done. And so the system was rigorously made mathematically precise. And so you can predict how much dimmer you can see with a set of optics. So for example, 30 millimeter binoculars, which are about 4 times the diameter of your pupil, will give you about 3 magnitudes. So instead of 6th magnitude stars, you can see 9th magnitude stars. There are stars that are much dimmer and objects that are much dimmer than 6th magnitude that you can see. For example, Pluto is magnitude approximately 14. Some objects are brighter, so for example, Venus shines at magnitude -4. Brighter is smaller numbers. The Moon is -12. The Sun is magnitude -26. Remember, large numbers are dimmer.
Welcome back to our program. Much in the same manner that a traveler would use a map to get from one destination to another, astronomers use maps to find their way around the sky. With me here in the studio is a fellow Ford Club member, Ken Anderson. Ken, welcome back to the show.
Welcome. I'm glad to be here. So we do have a list of books and charts that I will be showing today. And the first one I want to show you is a planisphere. And this one is from Orion. And along the top, you have the hours, and on the outer dial, you have the month and days. And you line these up with the time that you're observing, and you can see how the sky rotates around you. And so this would give you the stars in the field of view. You would hold it over your head, point it towards north where Polaris is, and you can learn the constellations. So this is an excellent tool to learn the constellations.
And you can use this for any time of the year.
This is good for any time of the year, and this one is made specifically for latitude 40 degrees north, and it goes down to star magnitude 5. So the higher the number of the stars is the more stars you'll see on the chart. The next one I have here is Sky Map, and you can get this from skymap.com, and this one goes down to magnitude 4. And for the month of June, we picked the constellation Sagittarius, which looks like a teapot, and the main object of interest is the M8 Lagoon Nebula. M8 stands for the 8th object in the Messier list. And the Lagoon Nebula is a place where stars are being born. It's glowing gases.
Okay, what do we have next here, Ken?
Okay. The next 2 objects are magazines that you can get from any magazine stand, or you might have a subscription to it. And the first one is Astronomy Magazine, and they have something similar to a planisphere, also at like 40 degrees. And these go down to magnitude 5. And you can see Sagittarius is the teapot with M8 sticking above it. And the magazines are great because they also show the planets. You can see the relative size of the planets and where the planets are and their relative orbits. And this one shows Jupiter and its moons for Astronomy magazine. The next magazine is Sky and Telescope. And it has a similar chart, also showing the list of events, phases of the moon, and relative sizes of the planets. And this one shows Jupiter and Saturn's moons.
I see you've got a series of books here, Ken. Now, what can you tell us about those?
Well, the first book I have, Turn Left at Orion, this is from Brother Guy Consul Mango. And you saw him on one of our earlier shows.
Back last fall,
Yeah,
yes.
he's one of the true Vatican astronomers. And this is a very good beginner book. And I'm opening this up to the page so you can see the teapot for Sagittarius and the M8 Lagoon Nebula right up here. And in the final chart, that's what it would look like. And he orders these in objects through the seasons, so it's kind of like a chronological day-by-day event. The next series of books, these are by Stephen O'Meara. These are actually my favorite books to read about the Messier objects, and he actually has a series of these. But for M8, you can see a hand-drawn picture of the Lagoon Nebula. And also, he has a close-up, detailed chart of M8 and all the other objects in there. And he also has a photographic picture of what the object looks like. So he has all 109 Messier objects in this book, and his continuing series, he has the Caldwell objects for another 109 objects, and Hidden Treasures for a third 109 objects. And they're all very good to read, but the Messier objects are definitely the beginning ones to go through. The last book that I have here, this is the Atlas of the Messier objects, and this is a tabletop book. You wouldn't want to bring this out to the field because it has a lot of nice pictures and it doesn't have very many charts. They actually leave the charts for the other books, but you can see here they have very beautiful pictures of the Lagoon Nebula. And they also have, it's a very good historical book because they also have pictures that were made in the past. And like this one here, this was hand-drawn in 1877.
Very interesting. So, as you said, you do get that historical perspective.
Right, and then they also have a picture up here of the Hubble, taking a picture of M8 as well.
I see you have some other objects here on the table just behind us. Can you enlighten our viewers on their uses?
Sure. I do like using laminated charts.
Why is that, Ken?
Well, for an actual observer, a lot of times when you observe at nighttime, things do get wet. And laminated charts tend to last longer. This one is one for the moon, and they have regular image and reversed images. And since I have a Newtonian, I have to flip them upside down because top becomes bottom and vice versa.
Exactly.
And they also have larger charts, this one from Sky and Tel of the moon. And you can get these in regular and reversed options too. Now the next series is basically how I go about observing. So Sky and Tel does have these laminated Messier and Caldwell object charts. And like as I mentioned, the Messier objects are the easier ones to find. On the chart, the poster in front of us, it does tell a little bit about Charles Messier. He lived around the time of George Washington, and he observed in the Paris Observatory. So all these objects he looked at from Paris. And he was a comet hunter He discovered 18 comets, but he's more famous for his list of 109 objects that were not comets. So those are the things he didn't look at, and they're the things that we've spent most of our time looking at today. So these are how I determine what I'm going to look at, because basically I look up at the zenith, see what constellation is up there, or to the south, because the south changes all the time, and I decide what I'm going to look at.
Well, the last couple of minutes we have in this segment, Ken, I see you have some interesting spiral-bound books here.
Sure. These are the laminated sky spot mystery objects, and here you can see M8 and the teapot here. And they have two volumes for the mystery objects and one volume for the overlooked object. The Mystery Marathon by Harvard Pennington is basically written for the month of April, seeing the whole, all the mystery objects in one night. You can see the teapot here, and M8 and Lagoon, and right here. Here's the Lagoon Nebula right here. Mm-hmm. And Sky Atlas has a really good chart. They have a finder parts, they have 25 charts here that tells you where to point to, which chart to flip to. And you can see the teapot here and the Lagoon Nebula right up here. And the shading in the blue shows the density of the Milky Way. These also come in laminated versions too, which would last a lifetime, but the folded version doesn't take up as much space. They also have a pocket version of Sky Atlas that you can see here. It's a little bit smaller and a lot more charts to look through. The Great Atlas of the Stars is neat in that it has a fold-out plastic display that you can peel apart. You can see the constellation, and here's how the stars look at night. And this is like the heart of the galaxy. So Lagoon Nebula is the red glowing region up here.
Ken, this has really been an interesting segment to see all of the various resources that are available for observers to take out into the field. If you have any questions, please send us an email to our email address. And after the short break, where we'll show you a list of upcoming events, we'll be back with What's Up in Tonight's Sky. Don't go away.
Up in the night sky for June 2010. The moon is new on June 12th. It's at first quarter on June 19th. We have a full moon, which is also called the strawberry moon, on June 26th. This full moon also has an eclipse of the moon. That's where the Earth's shadow passes over the face of the moon. Half of the Earth gets to see this. Unfortunately for us here in Michigan, that half is the Pacific Ocean. So perhaps if you're in Seattle or in Australia, you'll get to see it. We have a third quarter on July 4th. In the evening sky, we have Venus, Mars, and Saturn in the west, southwest, and south. On the 17th of June, the moon joins Venus, Mars, and Saturn in a nice tight lineup. Look for it around 10 p.m. It should be great. Now, normally I wouldn't talk about Jupiter, which rises after 3 in the morning, but Jupiter was in the news recently. As it has come out from behind the sun, it has lost its southern equatorial belt. So you might wonder, how is it going to keep its pants up? Now, Mercury rises just before sunrise. It is not as easy to see as it was in April when it was next to Venus in the evening. You have to know where the sun is going to rise and so on. but it's there. Trust us. On June 1st and 2nd, Ceres, this is now a dwarf planet. One Ceres was the first of the asteroids. Will pass through M8, the Lagoon Nebula, which we've been talking about in this show. And then on June 8th, Jupiter and Uranus are going to be very close together, 26 minutes. It's a little bit closer together than the width of the full moon. This is a good opportunity to get out binoculars and find Uranus because it's going to be right next to bright Jupiter. So that's what's up in the night sky for June 2010. Let's go observing.